Okay, folks, so in this section, what we're looking at is a very specific technique of integration that is called the U substitution. So we use the U substitution technique to help us undo the chain rule. So one of the most important derivative rules that we had was the chain rule, and so one of the most important anti-differentiation tools or integration tools that we have is the U substitution for undoing the chain rule. So let's just recall what the chain rule says. It says that if we had, if we were asked to take the derivative of f of g of x, so we've got g of x is nestled inside of f of x, then we take the derivative of the outside function, leaving the inside function alone, but then by the chain rule, we have to then multiply by the derivative of that outside function. Okay. So here's how the process of a U substitution works. Let's suppose we're going to take the antiderivative of this function right here. So if we have the antiderivative of f prime of g of x times g prime of x dx, so if we're asked to find the antiderivative of this, well, because we recognize that it's a chain rule problem, we could jump straight to the answer, but this is how we're going to use this technique of U substitutions. What we're going to do is we're going to say, let's let U be the expression whose derivative also shows up. So here we've got g of x, and the derivative of g of x also shows up. So we're going to let U be g of x. A consequence of that is then that du dx would be equal to g prime of x, or another way to say that is du is equal to g prime of x dx. So now we're ready to do a substitution here. I'm going to rewrite this integral, and in place of g of x, I'm going to write a u. So this will give me f prime of u du. And notice that in just the most physical sense, this question right here is difficult on the eyes, whereas this one is easier on the eyes. So we have rewritten this problem in terms of the variable u as opposed to the variable x, and that should make it easier to then compute the antiderivative, or often it'll make it easier to compute that antiderivative. So here, this is just a straightforward, what is the antiderivative of f prime of u? And the answer is f of u plus c. And then we have this back substitution step where we say, well, u wasn't the variable we were supposed to be solving for. What was u? Well, u was actually g of x, so now we could rewrite this as f of g of x plus c. And so that's how we do the process of the U substitution. Okay, that's very abstract. We're going to practice it now in a couple of examples.